What is going on, everybody? SchwayZ here, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing the all-new next generation 2023 Chevy Colorado. Now, before we get started, I do want to extend a huge thank you to Jerry Seiner Chevrolet for giving me the opportunity to review this Trail Boss for you all today. If you guys are in the market for a new or used vehicle, make sure you reach out to them. They have a large assortment of inventory and they do not charge markups on new vehicles. So let them know SchwayZ sent you and I'm sure they'll take care of you. Okay, so about the 2023 Chevy Colorado. Well, this is the third generation of the Colorado, and if you're not familiar with what this is, it's a mid-size pickup truck that competes with the likes of the Toyota Tacoma, the Jeep Gladiator, the Ford Ranger, and the Nissan Frontier. And it's brand new, newly restyled for 2023, and it comes with a lot of features and amenities that we're going to show off in today's video that make it a really competitive vehicle when you're comparing it against some of those competition. Now, this one in particular is the Trail Boss. Now, there are 5 trim levels available on the Colorado for 2023. You have the work truck, which is the WT, the LT, there's the Trail Boss, which is kind of the mid-range level. Then you've got the Z71 and the top of the line ZR2, which is the off-road trim level. The Z71 is kind of the luxurious version of the truck versus the ZR2 being the off-road ready. This Trail Boss, however, is kind of the off-road version of the work truck. So you get a lot of the off-road goodies that we'll talk about in today's video, but without having to break the bank like with the ZR2. So let's talk about styling. Starting off with the front end, this is definitely a different look from the outgoing generation. Starting over here at the bottom, you do have this body painted bumper over here with the rest of the bumper kind of maintaining this black plastic cladding, and that's because this is the Trail Boss. This isn't the most expensive version, so they're going to make it a little bit more off-road ready, a little bit more rugged, and so this should stand up the test of time a little bit better than body painted plastic down here. But definitely a lot going on with the front end. It looks kind of similar to the current generation Silverado, but it still has its own unique look to it. You have a lot of angles, a lot of protrusions. It's got just a lot of character to the front end, and I do like with this Trail Boss trim, you do have the blacked out Chevy bow tie, and you have Trail Boss badging over here as well. Now, moving a little bit further up, let's talk about these headlights. One thing that I'm a little disappointed about is you cannot get LED headlights on the Trail Boss trim level. That comes on the higher trim levels, and so you're stuck with halogens and incandescent turn signals, and there's no LED running lights over here at the bottom. This is just a fake plastic vent over here, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but luckily there is some cool features of this front end, because let's talk about this hood. Look at all the bulges and all the different curves here. Definitely a rugged and aggressive stance to the front end. You can tell this is an off-road vehicle without me even having to tell you. Now, down below the bumper, you'll notice there's this large air dam with some recovery hooks. Just note that this air dam is for fuel efficiency and it is removable, so that way when you're off-roading it, you don't rip this thing off on a rock. Now, coming over to the side, you do have a little bit more width to the Trail Boss trim level compared to the work truck or the LT, and that's because this is more off-road capable. And then talking about the tires and wheels, so you do have particular wheel and tire setup for the Trail Boss. These are blacked out 18-inch wheels wrapped around Goodyear Wrangler Territory all-terrain tires. These are 265 millimeter wide, and as you can see, they do have a little bit of tread over here on the side, which should make it a little bit more capable if you're taking this vehicle off-road. Now, in case you're wondering what the size of these tires are, these are 32-inch tall tires. I do like the look of this angle over here around the fender. Again, the 2023 Colorado just has a lot more angles to it. Everything from the front to the side, it has more character, more sculpted lines than the previous generation. And then the Trail Boss also gives you these blacked out mirror caps, which look really nice. You know, the side of the vehicle just looks like a typical truck, but I do like the additional angles that you see over here on the side. The Trail Boss also has the door handles the same color as the fender flares. Now, coming to the back, again, you have that same thick fender flare, same rugged tires, and then you are riding on leaf springs in the back with a solid rear axle, whereas the front is an independent front suspension. Now, coming to the back, you have this Trail Boss sticker, which looks really nice. Now, I will complain about another thing back here. You don't have LED taillights. Again, you have to get the LED headlights to get a little bit of LED trim back here, but I wish that was an option because it just looks a lot better, and that's kind of the standard here for 2023. You do have a little step over here so you can reach into the truck bed, and unfortunately, this customer did not purchase this vehicle with a bed liner, so that's not standard. That is an option. Now, coming to the back, you do have Chevrolet embossed into the tailgate, and just an overall good-looking truck, although there are a few features that I wish were included as standard on the Trail Boss trim level. Okay, now in case you're wondering about the size here and what options are available, As of 2023, Chevy only gives you one option for the Colorado. Regardless of what trim level you pick, there's only a 4-door crew cab configuration with a 5-foot bed. It's actually a little bit longer than a 5-foot bed, but you're rounding down to about 5 feet. That's the only configuration you can get as of 2023, where the previous generations had a shortened cab and a long bed version. This one doesn't, and that's because, you know, Chevy says this is the best-selling configuration, and for that reason, to cut costs and make the production easier for them, they're offering it in one configuration. Now, in terms of the length of this vehicle, it's about 213 inches long, which is about the same length as a Nissan Frontier and a Toyota Tacoma. But let me know what you guys think about just offering one configuration, because the Toyota Tacoma, the Nissan Frontier, they all offer a wide variety of different choices, and with this one only being this 4-door, little over 5-foot bed, it does limit some of the audience who are buying mid-size pickup trucks. But I'm curious to hear your comments down below. Now, the other thing to mention about the side of this vehicle is the Colorado is a bit taller than the previous generation. I think it's somewhere near 9 inches taller between the suspension lift and the cab length. So you're going to have a little bit more interior room, giving it a taller ride stance than the previous generation. And while we're here, I do want to point out the fact that you still have a fully boxed in frame, which is a little bit different than the Tacoma, but very similar to the Nissan Frontier. Now, with this one being the Trail Boss, like I said, you have a little bit more off-road amenities, and I showed you what some of that was on the outside, but I do want to talk about a few things that you probably can't see. First off, you do get a factory 2-inch lift on the Trail Boss. So this sits taller than your standard work truck or LT Colorado, and even taller than the Z71. The only one that's taller than this is the ZR2. In terms of ground clearance, you're looking around 9.5 inches. If you pick the ZR2, you can get up to 10.7 inches, but the standard Colorado only comes with 7.9. So this is a 2-inch lift over the standard one. Now, the Trail Boss also gets you a 2-speed transfer case with a 4-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive low. You also get an off-road downhill cruise control, and the vehicle will automatically brake for you and maintain the same speed as you're going down a hill. The Trail Boss also gets you a standard rear locking differential for when you're rock crawling. Now, unfortunately, the Trail Boss does not come with skid plates from the factory, but you can get that as an option directly from Chevy. All right, now I do want to climb back here and show you the truck bed. Now, you do have the soft opening tailgate, which is really nice. There are some cool features here that I want to talk about. So first off, you do have these little rivets over here. I imagine that might be for a cup holder, but maybe that's my imagination. But take a look here. You do have a ruler over here. It's about 48 inches long. So if you need to measure something, you can use your tailgate for that. And as you can see, there's a couple tabs over here. Well, by pulling on it on both the driver and passenger side, you can open up this little compartment over here. This is a closed storage compartment. It is waterproof. You can actually put ice or water in here, and there is a drain plug if you want to drain the liquid out when you're done. So that's a pretty cool feature that you're utilizing this, 4 inches of space or so in the back of the truck bed of the tailgate. And, it's not just empty space or just sheet metal. So that's a pretty smart concept I haven't seen on other vehicles before. Now, another neat trick to point out about this tailgate is you can have it lowered just about halfway by putting the cable into this little section over here. And what that does is it creates a flat loading floor so that you can place larger pieces of sheetrock or plywood and have it rest directly on top of this and on top of the wheel well, giving you the addition of several extra feet of space if you're looking to put some large cargo back here. And this tailgate can support up to 500 pounds of weight, so it's definitely made for some heavy cargo. Now, another thing to point out back here is you do have the wheel wells pretty shallow in the truck bed, so you do have the ability to store pretty long objects back here. Also, Chevy says this has a class-leading up to 17 different cargo tie-downs inside of the truck bed. I'm not sure exactly why you would need 17 different tie-downs in a mid-size pickup truck, but you can get this thing optioned with up to 17 different hooks, so you can tie down some cargo regardless of what shape it is inside of the truck bed. Now, while we're back here, let's talk about towing. With the trailering package, the Chevy Colorado has an almost class-leading 7,700 pounds of towing capacity. That is almost full-size pickup truck territory, which is really impressive for a mid-size truck. Now, in case you're wondering about payload, it's also pretty impressive at 1,532 pounds. All right, now let's talk about what's under the hood, and this is where it gets pretty interesting again. So similar to how you can only get one cab and bed configuration, you can only really get one engine option, but there's 3 different tunes and 3 different types of power. So starting off, you have the base engine, which is a 2.7 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine that produces about 237 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Now, then there's the mid-range, which is the turbo plus engine. That's the one that you'll find here in the Trail Boss and pretty much in most of the trim levels above the work truck. That is the same 2.7 liter turbocharged turbocharged 4-cylinder, except it has a different tune, different components, and for that reason it produces 310 horsepower and a whopping 391 pound-feet of torque. That's pretty impressive figures for a mid-size pickup truck. Now there is a third option which comes on the ZR2 and can be optioned on this Trail Boss. That is the high output engine, and that one produces 310 horsepower, same as this one, but a whopping 430 pound-feet of torque. Really impressive figures here. So even though they've gotten rid of the turbo diesel, even though they've gotten rid of the V6, you still have a pretty powerful engine under the hood. And 0 to 60 for this Turbo Plus, the mid-range engine, is just about 7 seconds. Now all of that power is sent through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now depending on which engine you pick, they do have different types of 8-speed automatics, but it's always an 8-speed auto. And you can get the Colorado equipped with either rear-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. If you do choose the Trail Boss trim level, 4-wheel drive is standard, so you can't get the Trail Boss with rear-wheel drive. Now, the best fuel economy you can get is with the entry-level 2.7 liter. That one has 19 in the city, 23 on the highway. This particular Trail Boss has 17 in the city, 21 on the highway, and the high-output ZR2 has 17 in the city and 19 on the highway. All right, now let's jump inside and talk about the interior. This is probably where the most updating happened and probably where the previous generation was kind of lagging behind the competition. Now, starting off with the door panel, this is all hard touch plastic. That's a little unfortunate, but kind of common amongst the competition. I recently reviewed a Nissan Frontier. Same story here. You do have a somewhat soft surface over here. It's kind of a rubberized material, but a little bit rougher than I wanted. I wish this was a little bit softer, so when you rest your elbow, you're not going to get tired on long road trips. You do kind of have this fake plastic trim piece over here that's a different plastic than the rest of the vehicle. Your door handle over here is plastic, and then just typical window switches over here. You do kind of have a cool looking trim here, which on the higher trim levels looks a little bit nicer. This one is just kind of a field of black because this is the Trail Boss. Again, this is kind of an off-road version of a work truck. You do have some storage over here for like a phone or a wallet and a cup holder down here. And your speaker grill looks pretty nice, probably the nicest part of this door panel. It integrates well with the design of the door panel itself. Now, a 6-speaker audio system is standard, but you can get an upgraded Bose audio system if you choose to. Now, climbing inside, you do have automatic seats over here. These are the cloth seats. These are kind of the upgraded, nicer version cloth seats. They kind of have a dual color to them. You have gray with black. Nothing too much to report here. Now, climbing inside, let's take a look at the interior. First off, I do want to point out the material quality. So first off, this is all hard touch plastic over here. Everything from the driver to the passenger side to even the fake trim over here and even this section over here. It's just a sea of black plastic, which is kind of similar to the competition, but I did expect a little bit better use of quality on the interior. So just get used to that if you are looking to pick up the Trail Boss. If you want something nicer, you're going to have to pick the GMC Canyon, which is going to come with some nice leather materials and soft touch plastics on the interior. This one just doesn't have that at the Trail Boss trim level. Starting off the steering wheel, you do kind of have this fake looking leather. This is not real leather. This is a plastic steering wheel, but it has like that simulated perforation that you'd find on leather steering wheels. On the left hand side, you have your cruise control options and your adaptive cruise control, and the right hand side is just your audio and your voice activation. Now, one thing I do want to point out, the Chevy Colorado Trail Boss does not come standard with cruise control. You heard that correctly. You do not get cruise control as standard on the Colorado, especially for this Trail Boss trim level. You have to option for it. It comes standard on the higher trim levels, but not on this Trail Boss. Now, honestly, I think that's a big miss for the Colorado, because even one of the cheapest cars on the market today, which is the Mitsubishi Mirage, comes standard with cruise control on its lowest trim level. So I don't really understand why Chevy chose not to throw cruise control in as standard, because that to me is equivalent of having automatic windows in cars, but you do not get that. So keep that in mind. If you're ordering one and you want cruise control, you're going to have to option for that in addition to your base Trail Boss trim level. Now, moving up from the steering wheel, on the left-hand side is your windshield wiper controls. And you may be wondering, well, how do you regulate the headlights? Because over here, this is just your dimmer switch for your instrument gauge cluster, and then you just have your trailer brake controller over here, but there's no button or anything for your headlights. So that's because they've now integrated that into this infotainment screen. And let's talk about the technology here, because that's really the main selling point of the 2023 Colorado. It comes packed with lots of tech, some of the best in its class. So starting off, let's just turn the accessories on. Every single Colorado comes standard with this 8-inch instrument gauge cluster display. Now, you can get an even larger display if you option for the higher trim levels, and you can get upwards of edge-to-edge 11 inches for the instrument gauge cluster. That is actually actually pretty amazing because this is not very common in this class. The new Tacoma coming out will have an all-digital display, but that's honestly some of the best of the best. Now, turning over here, this is a standard 11.3-inch touchscreen. This isn't for the Trail Boss or the ZR2. This is standard on every single Colorado. That's pretty amazing. Even the work truck comes with this 11.3-inch touchscreen. And I gotta say, you know, I've used this in previous GMC and Chevy products. It's a really intuitive system. Very easy to use, very functional. Everything is very snappy. You just push a button and it opens up your features. Your home button works really well. Your GPS works great. Your music functions work great. It's a very simple and easy system to learn. And the other advantage here is this is Google integrated. So you can just say stuff like, hey, Google, and ask it questions, and it will answer just like your Alexa or Google Home device. So really nice technology here. This has got to be some of the best in its class. Another thing to mention is you do get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto as standard as well. So if you don't want to use the Google functionality, you can just wirelessly stream from your device. Now, another thing that this particular vehicle I'm sitting in does not have, but you can get option on the Trail Boss, is a 360-degree camera. Now, Chevy says you can option the Colorado with the most amount of cameras in its class. You can get upwards of 10 cameras all around the vehicle, including 2 cameras underneath the truck, so you can see exactly what's going on underneath you if you're off-roading. Really cool and neat technology there, and you can get that option on the Trail Boss, which I would recommend if you're going to take this car off-roading. You do have a physical volume knob over here, which actually feels pretty good, surprisingly. I thought it'd feel a little bit cheap. And then down from here, you do have push to start, which is nice considering cruise control isn't standard. You do have your fan speed. These are your climate control settings. They're still physical. You only get one zone climate control, so everybody's got to be happy with what the driver picks. And then down below that are just your buttons for your climate vents and where you want the air to go. So that's pretty nice, very intuitive. But like I said, a lot of stuff is packed into here so that they don't have to use redundancies or have several different buttons, which kind of add to the costs of building a vehicle. Now, down below here, you do have some air vents for the driver and passenger side, and then you do have some toggle switches to turn off your automatic start-stop, your hazards, and your lane keep assist. Now, obviously, this one comes option with some additional safety features that aren't standard on the base Trail Boss. You do have 2 USB ports, and then you have this kind of cool looking camo compartment. You would think this is a wireless charging pad, but unfortunately you cannot get wireless charging on the Trail Boss trim level, not even as an option. Another thing that I'm kind of surprised about and I'm going to complain about, because wireless charging is kind of a standard amongst almost every car nowadays, and this one you can't even get it on the Trail Boss trim level. Now, another couple features that are missing from the Trail Boss is a heated seat, heated steering wheel. You can't get a telescoping steering wheel. It's only tilting, and you can't get a sunroof. So if you want any of those features, you're gonna have to pick higher trim levels and then option for those features because they're not even available on the Trail Boss. Now, moving down here, this is how you adjust to your 4 high, 4 low. You do have a 4 auto mode, which is nice. And then this is your drive mode selector as well. There are 5 different drive modes. Now, I'd have to turn this vehicle on to show you, but unfortunately I'm indoors and so I can't drive this car because it's already pre-sold. You do have your standard gear selector, kind of a rubberized fake material similar to what you have on the steering wheel. And then you have your electronic parking brake, 2 cup holders over here with a little bit more of that camo design. And then you have a pretty soft armrest over here. You open this up, a little compartment which is removable, and that gives you quite a bit amount of storage, a little bit more, I would say, than the outgoing generation. Now, coming over to the passenger side, not too much to report over here. You do have a glove compartment. Now let's jump into the second row and show you what's going on back there. Now, climbing into the second row, very similar story in terms of the door panel, hard touch plastics all throughout, same coloration, but again, a little bit of that cool design. You do have a cup holder over here and a little bit more of that camo design inside of this little storage compartment. Now, going inside, let's talk about the interior. So you do have this little lever over here on the right and left hand side, and if you pull this up, you can raise up the seats, and that gives you a little bit more storage underneath here. That's actually where you have your floor jack, and it's nice to have this type of compartment so that you don't have stuff rolling around in the back. And then by simply pulling on this lever, the seat will come back down. You can do the same thing on the passenger side. And let's climb inside and talk about the amount of space back here. Now, similar to the Colorado ZR2 I reviewed, it seems like this area is a little bit tight. So when you're climbing in, you kind of have to be wary about that because it seems like your foot will get caught on this door seal. And so just be mindful when you're climbing into the back of the Colorado. And not too much space back here. This is kind of typical for a mid-size pickup truck. Very very similar to the Nissan Frontier I reviewed and the previous generation Colorado I reviewed as well. You're looking about 34.7 inches of legroom behind the first row. Now this is about the same position as me sitting when I'm driving, and so you can see just a couple inches. Now luckily the angle of the seat isn't too bad. My knees aren't really touching my chest. I'm sitting pretty much as I would in any normal crossover SUV, which is nice. It seems like it's a little bit better than some of the competition, but it's not necessarily a super comfortable place to sit for a long period of time. You do have quite a bit of legroom. That's aided by the fact that this is a taller vehicle than the previous generation Colorado. And then you do have a manual window opening over here. There's no fancy electric button to open up this window, but this does open, which is a nice feature. Another nice feature is the fact that you do have rear air vents back here, which is something that's omitted from a lot of the other mid-size pickup trucks. You have two cup holders over here and a place to put maybe your phone or a wallet. And the reason they're over here is because you do not have a center armrest. That's an option available on higher trim levels, but not on the Trail Boss. Now the higher trims also offer a household power outlet located underneath the air vents in the center arm console. Moving above you, you just have your standard light, and you've got this little handle you can grip onto when you're going off-roading. Now, in case you're wondering about warranty, it's a pretty standard 3-year, 36,000 mile bumper-to-bumper warranty and a 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. Now, in terms of pricing, the base work truck starts around $29,200. The Trail Boss that you're seeing in front of you starts around $38,500. This one is a little bit more because it has a few additional features. Then the ZR2 starts around $46,800, but can go up to over $60,000 for a midsize pickup truck. So there you have it, folks. That is the 2023 Chevy Colorado Trail Boss. And in all honesty, to me, this is kind of a mixed bag. In some ways, this is a very impressive truck. For one, the styling looks really good. I love how this thing looks more aggressive and off-road ready. It also has some really amazing tech with that 11.3-inch touchscreen, the 8-inch instrument gauge cluster display, and wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You've got air vents in the back. But then in other ways, this thing is missing some bare bones amenities that I would expect on even just your entry-level pickup truck, like cruise control and the option for wireless charging and heated seats as an option. I'm not even asking for it as standard. I'm just asking for it to be even available on these pickup trucks. And unfortunately, they reserve that for some of the higher trim levels. So if you're wanting to get some of those nice amenities that you're maybe used to in your regular crossover, you're gonna have to pay a little bit more money and get the higher trim level in order to get those features. But let me know your guys' thoughts on the 2023 Colorado. Would you pick this over some of the competition, especially the new Tacoma coming out, or would you pick something else and why? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if this is your first time stopping by, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly videos. Also check me out on all the social media at SchwayZ_. Until next time, everybody, I hope you stay SchwayZ, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.